Hey, welcome back, everybody. Just to make sure that we have no technical issues going forward, can I just confirm that everybody can hear me? A thumbs up will just be fine from anyone, please.
Yeah, and you're loud and clear from my side as well.
Great stuff. Thank you so much. Okay, so let
Oh, wait,
us.
sorry, we've got a
Yes,
hand raised there.
yes, Timber. See your hand is up.
Good morning. Hi, how are you, Marlene?
Well, thanks, and yourself.
Very good, thank you. I just wanted to check um, as like how long will this meeting take place? Because I'm looking at the constraint of the data that people are experiencing, the data usage. Unless if you guys will be recording this and then be shared on the platform. I don't know how you'll be doing this. Can you answer that?
No problem, Timber. Thank you for that. So just to answer, yes, this recording will be, it is recorded and will be made available on the Moodle system. So if people are unable to continue till the end due to data shortages, that's absolutely fine, but the recording will be made available thereafter. Okay, perfect. So if we look at the analysis phase, this is where you gather, assess, and you define the specific requirements and your environmental considerations for this proposed system. Okay, so this phase lays out the groundwork for deciding whether to build or buy the system. And you do that whilst also identifying any critical success factors and potential risks. Okay, so again, we're going to go through a lot of detail here. So it's, as I said, it's very important, these phases, that we go through this detail just so that you have an understanding of how each phase fits into each other and the importance of each phase. Okay, so if we look at capturing or gathering business information, capturing and analyzing these requirements, okay, you ensure that to ensure that you meet the needs of the organization, you have to analyze and address the following areas. Okay, so the key considerations here is you'd have to identify the business functions that needs to be developed. You define all the data requirements, including what information is needed and how it will be used. Then you also have to look at the business rules and processes. So document the rules that govern data behavior, right? You look at the constraints as well as the relationships. You then need to map out the flow of business functions, and that helps you to understand the processes and the life cycles. Okay. If we look at then the following aspect pertaining to your systems and the interfaces, okay, you look at identifying related business systems, which is your internal and external, and any required interfaces, okay. Then you look at assessing existing data, right? That may be, a need for conversion to use in the new system. Okay, then you also look at opportunities for improvement. So you look for chances to re-engineer your existing processes to improve efficiencies. And then you develop a preliminary transition plan. So what that is to ensure that, when you have your data moving into the new system, that there isn't any, loss of data, etc. So all of that needs to be considered. You've got your technical considerations that need to be considered as well. Okay, so you review your organization or your department's technical environment and the standards, which will include your security protocols, your network hardware, software requirements, as well as your delivery tools. Okay, you also have to ensure that you plan for technical architectures, which is that enables your information sharing across the organization. Okay, so all the information that's going to be housed needs to also have a way to be fed into different departments within the organization. So you have to plan for all of this. They call it the architecture in this process. Okay, and then you also look at, still under your business requirements, you're looking at your critical success factors, right? Think about, what would make this project a success, okay? So you identify your metrics for success, such as your system uptime, meaning that how how soon can you get your system up and running, okay? Your response time and also your scalability. So would the system suit an organization that's constantly growing and scaling up? Or is it just suitable only for an organization, for example, that houses or holds 500 people, but your business is your strategic plan is to grow by 1,500. Will the system be able to manage an employee count of 1,500? So all of that needs to be taken into consideration there. Contingency plans as well is really important. Okay, so you prepare for potential risks by addressing your system capacity, your network performance, as well as any and your organization's policy impacts. Okay, so whenever you're working on a project, you can't only look at the success factors. You also have to put a contingency plan in place to look at or deal with any issues that may arise. Okay. So if we look at the build versus buy decision, okay, so that's very important. A lot of companies prefer to just buy a system because it suits their needs. It doesn't need to be, tailor-made to their organization. They just need a generic system that works. But if you have an organization, more of your larger businesses that are very specific in terms of the sector that they're in, they may need to build a system. So probably buy a system off the shelf, but then also tailor make it and build it into what's required for them. So when you look at the build versus buy, the considerations or factors to consider is you capture your requirements, okay? And the next step is to decide whether you want to build or you need to purchase, okay? So you put in on paper or you've documented exactly what you need. Then you also look at key factors in the decision, which is you survey the marketplace now because you're looking to buy a product. Are there existing products that meet your needs? Your product compatibility. Does the product align with your technical environment, including your security, software standards, hardware? You'd have to consider all of that. Then you'd also have to look at the cost analysis. You compare the total life cycle cost of building versus buying, and that's also including your customization needs. So you'd find that a lot of organizations would probably find that buying a software or buying it off the shelf would be more cost effective than actually building it from scratch. And then resource availability. So does your team have the necessary resources and expertise to build the system? So do you have employees in your organization that have the necessary knowledge, experience, qualifications, etc., to build a system? Or is that something that now, that actually you face a negative there because you don't have those resources? Are contract resources available to supplement internal staff? So would you look at consulting, getting people to consult in so that they can help you or to assist the company in building a software? So a lot of these things would need to be taken into consideration. So it's not just as simple as build versus buy. If you're building, you're going to have to need the necessary resources. If you're buying, it's a bit of an easier option, but again, it needs to suit the needs of your business. If you look at operational planning, operational planning begins during the analysis phase, okay? And it refines the project progresses. You have to ensure that you have key planning areas, right? So operational considerations, you have application deployment, okay? That is decide how the system will be implemented and rolled out. Okay, so that's what that means. Your upgrade strategy, so you plan for technical and functional system upgrades. Hardware needs, you're looking at or you're assessing whether your desktop and server hardware needs upgrading. And then you determine end user desktop computer requirements. So there's quite a lot of things that need to be considered when you are looking from an operational planning point of view. Then you also have to look at backup and disaster planning. You have to develop strategies to ensure that there is regular data backups and disaster recovery. So that's making sure that you're mitigating any risk of data loss, and that you'd have to make sure that you plan this into the entire project. Okay. Ongoing maintenance. You identify your resources for maintaining the application and hardware. Okay, so you have to ensure that you have the necessary people, the right people, who are qualified and equipped to address the ongoing maintenance, because with ongoing maintenance, it's a role on its own, but it's also very crucial in ensuring that the integrity of the system is always in a viable position, because that will, if not, then you could have a system failure issue, etc., and we can't have that because that will affect the business negatively. Communication plan. You ensure that your stakeholders are informed about the project updates, the changes, and timelines. Okay, so it's always important that, for example, if you're rolling out this project in a specific department, that entire department is constantly kept up to date, or key stakeholders from that department are in meetings to ensure that they are up to date about the timelines, etc., or any changes to the project. Okay, that ensures that there's open communication lines, so people are not left in the dark when the system is up and running but have no idea how to use it, or what the purpose of that system is. Okay. And then if we look at the analysis summary, and it's at a high level here, and we look at what is the analysis summary. Okay, so the analysis phase concludes with a summary of a high level findings and recommendations. And with this is you look at the components of the analysis summary, right? You have acceptable and unacceptable approaches. So here you identify strategies and technologies that align with the project goals. You highlight approaches or technologies that are unsuitable. Okay, so here is you concluding basically all of your findings. You put it onto to a draft to say what are acceptable, unacceptable, and you identify any risks and opportunities for re-engineering. Okay, so again, you assess the risks and propose mitigating strategies. Okay, and you highlight opportunities for re-engineering or streamlining the processes. And in resource refinement, you provide updated estimates for required resources, including people, money, and technical needs. Okay, so again, it comes to working within a budget, and you can see here that you have to ensure that you have the right people in required resources to ensure that you are in line with budget. Also making sure that you're meeting the technical needs of the project as well. I have a hand up. Yes, Kira.
Good morning, Marilyn.
Hi.
I just want to know what does high level mean in this context? It might be a stupid question, but I just want to know for sure that I understand.
Okay, so whenever we refer to something as a high level, it's a high level summary. So picture maybe 10 pages of data, right? So we take that sort of data and we put it at a high level, or we synthesize it into easy manageable bits, so that we're not sending out 10 pages of a document to people. We put it on a 1-page or 2-page high level overview of what this analysis phase is, and that it's easily digestible for people to understand. That's what high level means. If you look at something, when you see the term low level, that is your 10 pages. So it's in-depth, where it has all the data. High level is just synthesized version of the information.
So almost like an overview.
Yes, overview.
Almost.
Overview, but contains all the important necessary information. Sometimes when we look at the word just overview, it'll cover a very basic. But if you're looking at an analysis summary high level, it's giving you a summary of each step.
Okay. Thank you so much.
Pleasure. Are there any other questions on analysis phase? Thanks. Perfect. We can go on now to the prototype. Yes, Timber.
Thanks, Marilyn, again. If we can go back to the last slide, to the previous slide. I'm trying to
The
understand.
analysis phase? Sorry, Timber, is this the right one?
Yes, please.
Yes.
I'm trying to understand the buying versus the building
Yeah.
of a system. Like in a corporate world, or a sort of a well-functioning company. So which one will be best to buy or to build your own system? Because I'm trying to understand now that building one, it means that you have the capacity to do so, and buying, then you might also need some sort of a training from the people that you're buying from for you to be able to run the system effectively.
Correct. Yeah. So I think, Timber, just to answer your question there, it ultimately just goes down to the organizational needs of the business. And that's why it's so important. So if we just skip back just to the analysis, looking at the analysis phase, is you have to almost, put down exactly what it is that you require from from a system. So let's just call it a system. We're not saying buy or build. Now we're just saying we need a system. So then we pull that apart and say, okay, this is the requirements that our business needs, right, from a system. Is there something in the market that has that to fill the needs of the business? And obviously not to affect or negatively affect the business in any way as well, because we have to also consider that. Remember, buying systems off the shelf, it's very generic. And depending on the business or the sector that you're in, it could be very specific. And that system that you buy off the shelf may not meet the needs, right? So the buy versus build is solely dependent on the needs of your business. And if you're looking at a larger organization, the larger organization will more than likely build a system to suit the needs of their business. Let's look at competitive larger businesses, right? So you have two businesses in a finance sector that are competing with each other. If they had to buy a system off the shelf, then it doesn't separate them from their competitors, right? But if they are building a system that makes them different from their competitors in a more value-added way, which will positively affect their clientele, then it means that they are more likely to get more clients to come to them because they have state-of-the-art system or software that they use, and the clients will be more inclined to go to that. Again, that's just an example, but again, going back to answering your question, it'll be solely based on the needs of a business. Again, some smaller scaled businesses will buy systems and then maybe probably tweak it here and there, but more larger organizations often build their own systems or buy off the shelf and then expand it and build, integrate it to fit their requirements. Hope that answers your question, Timber.
Yes, it does. Thank you very much.
Thanks, Timber. Okay, let's move on to prototype and design phase. Okay, so prototype phase testing, it's testing ideas before full development. Okay, so this is basically now just before your final implementation, you're going to have a testing phase, because you have to test the system or test a system before you can actually roll it out. And why it's important to test the system before you roll it out is because this is where you'd identify if there are any areas of concern, or if certain aspects of the system is not working or functioning properly. Okay. So the prototype phase is all about creating a working module of your proposed system to test its feasibility. Okay. You would ask the question, what is the purpose, or why build a prototype? Okay. You have to, it's to ensure that you investigate, you know, candidate technologies or approaches identified during the analysis phase. Okay, so all the stuff that we looked at in the analysis phase, we are now putting it into functioning in the prototype. Okay, to determine if the chosen solutions are viable and suitable for the needs of your business. Okay, it also looks at does the system address any unforeseen challenges early in the project? Okay, so they can identify any areas of concern. And if you look at, key considerations here for prototyping, you focus on critical system elements such as user interfaces, data handling, or new technologies. Okay, you use the prototype to gather feedback from stakeholders and refine requirements. And then you allow the prototype to evolve as the project progresses, serving as a foundation for the final system. A lot of companies that use the prototype phase, or most companies, when you are rolling out a system, go use the prototype phase. You have stakeholders from, if this is now being rolled out to an entire organization, you'll have stakeholders or departments or stakeholders from departments that will use the system. And then what they'll do is they'll provide you feedback based on how they are using the system and whether it is working for them, or what kind of issues they are facing, or if there's no issues, then at least it's a positive, be on the right track for that. So again, you can see the prototype phase is really crucial. So not only from a user interface system, it's also about the handling of all the data, and if it needs any new technology integration, this would be the time that we would start adapting all of that or putting that into place. Okay, so if you look at the design phase, it's mapping out the system. Okay, so your design phase focuses on creating a blueprint for the system. And that ensures that it meets both business and technical requirements. And it has two main steps, which is your general design and your detailed design. So if we look at your general design outlines the big picture of how the system will work, right? And it's also, what it does is it's without diving into technical details. So if that makes sense. So again, it outlines the big picture of how the system works, but not going into the technical details of it. What the general design includes, okay, you have business flow, so a technology independent view of the processes to be automated, right? You have data structures, which is how information will be stored and organized. Interactions, you have how data and procedures will interact within the system. Again, now this is talking about what's happening within the system. Your outputs, which is your preliminary plans for reports, screens, and prototypes. Your system connections, which is interfaces to other systems and data conversions. And then you have planning, early drafts of training, testing, and implementation plans. Okay, so again, you can see it's quite an in-depth process when it comes to the prototype and design phase. Okay, because it works together. It's not just only the prototype, it's also the design of it. And what it does is, again, the whole point of this process is to ensure that you are best out of your system. Okay, it's detailing exactly how the system will work, but also allowing people in your organization an opportunity to use it to give you first-hand information about how the system works. If we look at the review detail design, okay, so the objective of it is to to conduct your reviews. But what does that actually mean? Okay, so we look at your technical specifications. You look at the screens, the screen of your system, which is your layout, the functionality. We're looking at reports. So when you pull out a report, we look at the format of the content. We look at the batch routines and the modules, so your automated processes, data structures and integrity. So how does how data is implemented and protected, and conversions and interfaces that is transitioning from old systems and linking to external systems. So it's quite a lot that goes into the detailed design, but it's ensuring that, the key aspects from, data integrity, transitioning old or current information, and adapting it into the new system is all in place and is not affected by the whole transition from, a new design or to an existing one. Then when you look at your finalized plans, okay, sorry about that. So you're looking at your training and your testing, okay? So your comprehensive preparation for system rollout. So this looks at basically making sure that you have a proper training plan in place as well. You want to ensure that there's, when you are rolling out this the system to your organization, people need to also know how to use the system. It's not just a matter of, okay, the company has a new system in place, here you go, figure it out on your own. You'll often find that there are videos and user guides, simple to use user guides that would be uploaded to the system or shared by email or whatever it may be to employees. So it would be a whole project plan for a training implementation as well. So it's not just rolling out a system, you have to also take into consideration how employees will be trained on using the process, on using the system and its processes. Implementation and contingency. You have a step-by-step deployment plans with backup strategies, okay? Configuration and management of the system. So you have version controls, code securities, and server setups. Okay, so there may be different versions of this system, mainly because when you're working on the prototype and design phase, it's not going to just be one. It's going to be many different versions that would be done because you always, it's a phase. So it has to be version control and coded security, meaning that you also don't want your system being used through, by the wrong system being used, in the sense of the wrong version being used. So it's always important to ensure that you have proper backups in place as well. You also have to ensure that there's capacity growth planning, disaster recovery strategies, and access and authorization protocols. Again, we're looking at the architecture of the system, meaning that does it have capacity in the event that the company grows? So is it scalable? Is the system scalable? And then also making sure that the disaster recovery strategies, is there a strategy in place to ensure that in the event that something happens with information, that there is efficient process in place to recover that. And we could look at the access and authorization protocols, ensuring that the back system of the software, only certain users have access to that. Okay. If we look at on your far right corner, oops, here, so the rapid application development, I just want to quickly touch on that. So rapid application development, okay, is a technique that combines the detailed design and construction phases, which we're going to go through next, to speed up and develop a process. Okay, so how does this work? It uses prototypes to capture detailed requirements and test ideas. It refines designs with stakeholder feedback, and it applies techniques like time boxing, which is limiting iterations to control scope and stay on schedule. So ultimately, what this means is that why companies use a rapid application development. It saves time by blending design and construction. And then it also encourages collaboration and quick adjustments, and produces usable components early in the project. So again, ultimately what it means is that rapid application is just putting your design and construction phases together, and it's to speed up a process. So again, you're probably working on a very short timeline within your project where you have your superiors that are saying, well, this is the timeline, we need to roll this out by a certain date, and we can't afford to lose any further time. So a lot of companies in the development process, if they're developing software, a rapid application development is by combining your design phase and construction phase. Again, it's only in the event that it needs to be done very quickly. Okay. Are there any questions on your prototype and design phase? Okay, thank you. We're going to move on now to your construction phase. So your construction phase, ultimately what it means is you are bringing your system to life. Okay, so you've gone through your design, your prototype phase, you've tested it out. Now it's gonna start actually happening now, right? So the construction phase is where the system's technical components are built, tested, and prepared for deployment, right? And this phase ensures that every piece of work, um, both individually and as part of the larger system. So it's not just it's making sure that every aspect of the system works 100%. Okay, so if we look at the build phase, okay? So build phase, during this stage here, individual components of the system are developed and thoroughly tested, right? And key components are built and tested to include the following that I've mentioned here. Yeah, sorry, if I can ask you all to just put yourselves on mute. Thank you. So in your technical architecture, the backbone of the system basically serves as, which is your servers, network, and your databases. Okay, you ensure that there's proper setup for optimal performance and scalability. Okay, you're looking at your configuration environment, right? Your configuration environment establishes development, testing, and production environments, right? And then you also verify that settings are accurate for smooth transitions between environments. If you look at the software objectives, okay, your software objectives, you develop specific system features, which is your screens, reports, and your functionalities, okay? And you write clean, efficient code that meets the business requirements. So again, here, this is about, making sure that the code that's been written are in line with what the business requires. So again, this is from a perspective of, this is now we're talking about building a system, okay? So normally if you buy a system, it's already, the code is written based on that generic software. And then test data. So you create sample data for realistic testing of the system functions, okay? So again, you have to ensure that, your system is being tested, but you're creating a sample data for that. And that often gets shared out to, the people that are part of the project so that they can see what sort of, how the system will function. If we look at large scale testing types, okay, so that sort of breaks down into quite a bit. Okay, so you have various types of testing. You have integration testing. So large-scale tests are, once all the components are built and the unit is tested, your large-scale tests are conducted to ensure that the system operates as intended, okay? So we're looking at integration testing, system testing, you've got security testing. So there's a whole lot of different types of testing that will be involved during this phase here. You've also got your acceptance testing. Okay, if we have to go through it in detail, we can just go look at each one. So if we look at your integration testing, okay, it verifies that all system components work together seamlessly. It simulates a real world workflow from start to finish. Okay. What that means is that it's looking at you using that system in your organization from start to end, right? System testing, you evaluate the system's technical performance, right? It checks your response time, your error correction, backup processes, and stress handling under heavy loads. So this is also making sure that the system has the capacity with multiple users at any given time, and it doesn't have any issues with the amount of people, so data overload, etc. Acceptance testing, so that ensures that the system meets the user expectations and delivers the desired outcome. So for example, if I'm using the system, I need to be happy, I need to be comfortable with using it. You can't have somebody using a system that's going to affect their ability to do their job. They need to be able to use it properly. And what happens in this acceptance testing phase is that there will be key users testing the system with real world scenarios. For example, if it's a payroll system, you'll have people in the payroll team using it and actually, processing a payroll. Security testing, that it confirms that the system is protected against any vulnerabilities, data breaches, unauthorized accesses, etc. It tests your firewall encryptions and your user authentication processes, because that's also very important as well. A lot of the systems, like I know with the payroll system, you have a user authentication process where when you log in, you go onto your cell phone and you have to authenticate on your cell phone as well. So what that does is it's just making sure that the user is actually authenticated to be the actual person, because often they're not. You could have somebody that could steal your password and try and log into your system with using a password. But another form of a two-way authentication, you get a two-way, a three-way, etc. That makes sure that there is another form of authentication to access the system. So you can see that it's very important. Application software distribution and testing. It prepares the system for rollout by testing deployment procedures. Okay, it ensures that the software installations on users' devices are smooth and error-free. So this phase is just making sure it's ultimately having the software on people's computers or laptops, and making sure that the installation is running properly, that there isn't any areas of concern, and it's just smooth and efficient, and there's no hiccups in the sense of you can't access the information, you can't install it, etc. So this phase here is actually also quite important to make sure that the software is loaded properly on. Is there any questions regarding the construction phase? Thank you. We are now moving on to the training and implementation phase. So you can see the training and implementation phase will now be actually running through this whole system with the organization or your department, okay? So you're preparing people for success. And what that means is that you need to ensure that your training is of good quality, so that when people use your system or use the company system, they are using it without any issues and it works perfectly fine. Okay, so if we look at the training phase, what's the purpose of it? It's to ensure that the users and administrators are fully prepared to operate and maintain the new system effectively, right? You have, when you're finalizing your training plan, you have to look at the following factors. You've got comprehensive coverage. Okay, you have to focus on all the aspects of the system, including the daily operations, your troubleshooting and maintenance tasks. Okay, because again, when you're rolling out or when you're running through this training implementation phase, it also can't affect business as usual. Okay, so you need to adapt it to ensure that daily operations is running normally whilst the training is happening in the background as well. We also look at the audience segmentation. Okay, so your end users, you're teaching them how to use a system in their day-to-day roles. Administrators provide deeper knowledge of the technical setup and their maintenance. Commencing training. Okay, so when you commence training, it's going to have to be hands-on learning. Okay, you're going to have to include practical exercises, and that will boost confidence in using the system. You can imagine for someone that has not used a system before, it can be somewhat overwhelming because it's something that's new to them. Again, earlier I mentioned you have some employees that may resist a system because they are used to their old method of working or their current ways of working, which is just, manually doing things. But again, with software, it's there for a reason. Systems help you to work more efficiently. So it's almost to get that buy-in from them and let them see that there's nothing to be scared about. You're there to give them support, etc., and to help them to fulfill their job roles on a daily basis efficiently and without stress. Train the trainer approach. Okay. So you equip key team members to train others. Okay, what that does is it ensures that there's continuity in the knowledge being passed on, meaning that you're getting first-hand information about how to use the system. It's directly from someone that has been trained on the system. Okay, so then you know that your method or training of the system is done in a consistent manner across the board to everybody. And then companies need to also consider, ongoing training considerations, meaning that, sometimes when there is a update on the system, etc., it's maybe nice to have an ongoing training for the system as a refresher. So maybe it's every year people go on a quick training course that can also consider if there's any updates to the system that could help them. And this will also, again, make sure that the system is used efficiently. There's also consideration for feedback. Okay, so it's also important to get user feedback during these training sessions. So during training sessions, you probably do a small survey at the end of the training session to get feedback on users' experiences, okay, because this also helps when you're constantly revisiting your versions of the software when you are doing your upgrades, etc. It'll help you to tweak it here and there to ensure that it's being used at its optimum best. Okay, so that's just on the training piece of it, and we're looking at the implementation phase. Okay, so you're putting the system into action. Your implementation phase is when the system transitions from planning to operation. Right? Sorry, please may I ask you to put yourself on mute? Thank you. And with the implementation phase, you are detailing every step. Okay, so that you're including your timelines, responsibility, any contingency measures that need to be put in place. Your risk mitigation, right? You have to address any potential risks and outline any emergency response strategies. So what that means is that if there is any, let's just say that the system has been compromised in some sort of way, what sort of risk mitigation policy has been in place to ensure that we can deal with it efficiently without causing any further risk to the system, because again, that system holds data, important data or confidential data, depending on what system it is. So it's always important to have a risk mitigation outline or policy outline in this process as well. And if we look at your data conversion, so data conversions is you transferring data from the old system to the new one. This is in the event that you have a new system altogether, meaning that whether you've built it or you bought a system. So remember, some companies never had a system in place, and they're now going into the modern world of technology and getting a system. So they would now need to potentially manually update that system, or if it's a system that's already in place, you now have to transfer that data into the new system. Okay, so you have to make sure that that process is streamlined properly. Okay, and you have to ensure the accuracy and integrity during that process. Again, it's all about ensuring the integrity of the data that's been moved around or uploaded, etc. We just need to ensure that it's been safe. Okay, when you set up the environment, okay, so you're looking at your production environment, so you're finalizing your servers and the infrastructure for your live operations. Okay, so excuse me. You have to ensure that you have, so a lot of companies have an isolated server room where it's fully air conditioned, etc. You have access, it's access controlled, all of that stuff, but it needs to be in a well-maintained environment, whether it's in a separate part of your business or whether it's in your IT office, whatever it is, the servers and infrastructure needs to be set up appropriately. Okay, and then also you ensure that the user devices are compatible and configured, meaning that if we are using a laptop or a computer, that device has the ability to have that software on their system. Sometimes you have computers that do not allow certain software, etc. It's not compatible. So all of that will be considered in during this phase here. You've also have your software support, so you're confirming software installation, testing, troubleshooting. You prepare for unexpected challenges such as system outages. And then you also have a help desk set up. Okay, so that's really important because you're going to have people that will need assistance. So even though they've gone on training, etc., there will be that odd occasion where people will say, okay, well, I actually don't know what to do. I'm stuck at a certain point. I need help. So companies normally establish a support team to address these user issues and questions during this transition phase. Okay. And then you've got documentation. So you prepare comprehensive documentation, meaning that you've got your user manuals, your troubleshooting guides, you've got administrative procedures, and that will just ensure that there's smooth operations or the implementation of this project or this software system goes smoothly without, again, also affecting business as usual. Okay, you also have a part of, I know that there are some software systems that also have video guides. I find those that are also quite helpful for people to get an easier understanding. So that could also be another consideration there. Okay, so that's your training and implementation phase. Are there any questions on that before we move on to lesson plan 3? Is everybody still comfortable? Does anybody need to go on a short break? Should we pause for about 5 minutes? Are you comfortable with that? Is that a thumbs up to continue or to pause for a 5-minute break?
To pause.
Okay, cool. Let's pause for 5 minutes. So we are on the dot at 11 o'clock. Okay, so let's take a quick 5-minute comfort break and we will be back to continue with our last plan, which is lesson plan 3. Okay, and I'll see you back shortly. Thank you. Welcome back, everybody. We are now going to continue with lesson plan 3. And lesson plan 3 looks at forms, policies, as well as and your guides. Okay, so if we look at your assessment criteria, you're looking at assessment criteria 1, which is develop systems to keep administrative information at the required level of confidentiality. Okay, then assessment criteria 2, which is develop policies and procedures on administrative systems and write them into a manual. Okay, if we look at the next slide, we are going to go into a bit more detail about treatment of confidential information. Okay, so confidential information refers to non-public data about individuals or organizations that, if disclosed, could lead to legal, financial, or reputational harm. Protecting this information is not just a legal responsibility, but a critical ethical obligation as well. Okay, so you can see that it is really important for organizations to ensure that the treatment of confidential information is treated with high priority. Okay, so what is confidential information? Confidential information can include, personal identification information, which is basically a person's personal information. So you're looking at your person's ID number, so your identification number, your driver's license, passport numbers, financial information. So that could be, payroll records, credit card details, financial account numbers, personnel records or employee records. So the example, that could be somebody's work history, their performance, salary, disciplinary records. All of that is confidential information and should not be privy to just anybody in the organization except for those that have authority to view that information. Okay. We're looking at biometric data, for example, if it's people's fingerprints, retinal scans, identifiable physical information, criminal background checks, and conflict of interest disclosures. Okay, we're also looking at people's health records. Okay, so a lot of the time, excuse me, when employees are coming to an organization, they disclose if they have any health issues that would affect their ability to perform their duties. Again, that information is only meant to be privy to the person, that, for example, the HR team that would obviously be able to take that information and then, talk to the employee, and then, if needed, speak to that person's superior about how to accommodate them based on the information provided. Again, that information should not be made available to everybody in the business. Okay, and then you've got information pertaining to legal and propriety. So, example, attorney-client communications. Now, this is pertaining to like a law firm, with there's intellectual property, research, unpublished manuscripts. So again, you can see that all that information is important, protected. It needs to be protected. It can't just be made available to everybody. And if you look at, if you're looking at the treatment of confidential information, what will happen is if an organization does not treat this with importance, it could have a ripple effect to the organization, its employees. Again, we're looking at, negatively affecting the brand of that organization. Okay, it's also the employees will not be comfortable working in the organization. They will lose trust. It's very important that people feel safe with their information, that when they go into an organization, people will not just be privy to everything about them. Because again, it is private and confidential information and should only be purposes for the company to understand the needs of that employee, but should not be for any other reason by disclosing that to other colleagues. Okay. Are there any questions relating to treatment of confidential information? Okay, if we look at the next slide, which is talking to your policy guidelines and confidential information handling. Okay, so there's a responsibility to safeguard confidential information, right? Employees handling confidential information must safeguard the information, okay, use or disclose it only as authorized or required for their specific job duties. Okay, so as I mentioned earlier, if you're someone in the HR team, you are privy to that information. You have to maintain confidentiality. If you don't do that, you could open up yourself to face, disciplinary action, etc. You can use that information if it's needed in relation to you doing your job, or if it's in relation to having information of an employee that's not well or cannot physically do their job or mentally do their job. That's the only time you use it, to try and safeguard that employee's job. That's it. It shouldn't be for any other reason. You always ensure that the data is used in accordance with organizational policies and any other legal or contractual obligations. Okay. Misuse of confidential information. So misuse includes intentional actions, negligence, or inadvertent acts. Okay, so we're going to go through some examples of that. So examples of misuse could be unauthorized access. Okay, so that's accessing information that is irrelevant to the employee's task or role. Okay, improper handling or storage. So that's improper disclosure, meaning sharing confidential data with unauthorized individuals, which is, for example, other employees, third parties, whether it could be suppliers, etc. So it's anyone that is not authorized to have that information. Carelessness with data handling, which could also be seen as negligence. Okay, so it's improper handling or storage of data, or disposal of confidential data. So that's talking about both physical and electronic, right? This includes leaving documents unattended or failing to securely delete sensitive files. Okay, again, talking about hard copies, you're leaving documents on your desk and you walk away to use the bathroom or go grab a cup of coffee. So you are working in an open space and you have confidential documents on your table. Another colleague walks by who does not have authorization to even look at that document, but they could pick it up and read it. Okay, again, that falls on you as carelessness and negligence on your part, because you needed to make sure you safeguard that information if you're leaving your desk. Deleting sensitive files off your computer. Okay, so if you're dealing with sensitive files and your computer could be left open or whatever the case is, most often than not, you find employees do not lock their laptops or computers when they leave their desk. They have sensitive files, so they were tasked to read the files, delete afterwards. They did not do that. And somebody could come in and access their computer. And when I say access, it's because they didn't lock it and view that files. Again, just an example, but these things can happen, and more than likely have happened in real life as well. Spreading false information, so generating or sharing misleading and false data. Okay, and then we're also talking about deleting or modifying information without proper authorization. So if you see a file that you don't want anyone else to see, but you don't have authority to delete it, and you do, that is seen as unauthorized alteration, meaning that you have deleted the file without authority, and you could face disciplinary action for that. Personal use, that's using confidential data for personal purposes or for any unlawful activity. Okay. If we look at handling of personal access codes, etc. So employees with access to systems containing confidential data, they need to always ensure that they maintain the confidentiality of their personal access codes. You'll find in organizations, you will have a very unique like a code to access your laptop, etc. And you'll find that every 3 months or every so often you are required to get a new password. The reason why that happens is that's to maintain that the integrity of you accessing your computer, so that if for any reason somebody else had access to your password and you don't have another authentication or verification way to access your computer, it means that it allows you now to make sure that nobody else can access your computer. So you often find companies that do that. You also never share their passwords or account information. Okay, so you don't ever share that. Even if it's for like legitimate purposes. If somebody is in desperate need of some information, you are on annual leave, your computer is at the office, and somebody says, hey, I need to access your computer, you do not allow that. Because at the end of the day, it is your responsibility and you are accountable for your laptop or computer and people accessing your computer. Yes, Ashmika, you've got a question.
Okay, when we're speaking about the policy guidelines, would it be correct to also include PCI compliance as well?
Well, I would definitely think so, because if we're discussing the whole point about software usage, etc., I would definitely say that that would be part of your guidelines as well. That should.
Okay, thank you.
Problem. And as mentioned, you are responsible for any misuse that results from sharing access credentials. So again, if you decide to help a colleague out and give them your access code to use, it unfortunately becomes your problem and you will face any disciplinary actions for that. Okay. And then reporting unauthorized access or use. Okay, so if you as an employee suspect that someone is using their personal access code without permission, you need to immediately report it to your supervisor or your manager. Okay, because if you look at it, if we deal with it promptly, it's crucial to mitigate any risks relating to unauthorized access. Okay, so always make sure that, you know, if you find any sort of misuse, etc., it is reported effectively. Okay, so prohibited actions or practices. Okay, so employees are prohibited from logging onto systems with personal access codes and allowing others to access confidential information using their credentials. Okay, so what does that mean is you have somebody, you log into your system, and then you allow somebody else to come in and access that information. Okay, so that is still seen as not allowed. You can't let that happen. So just be very aware, because again, you could face disciplinary action because you had an intent there. Okay, and then sharing system access with unauthorized persons, you should never do that. Okay, under any circumstances, if you find that you are in a position where you are forced to give out your access code, etc., please always make sure that you report that. Okay, reporting it is the right thing to do. Employee expectations, identify and comply with confidentiality restrictions. Okay, so as an employee, you go through probably a rigorous onboarding process. Okay, so when you go through your onboarding process, a lot of organizations will go through this. They'll go through what sort of, you know, the do's and don'ts. Okay, and in your policy, it will give you that information. So employees are made aware upfront about what is required of them or their expectations. Okay, understanding handling procedures for various data storage media. Okay, position screens for authorized viewing and dispose of confidential materials securely. And in training, employees must attend training on compliance and handling of confidential information. So companies have training that happens quarterly, half yearly, and yearly, where it's just, again, a refresher. So Most of the time, it'll be an online training video that they'll go through to say that they've attended it, and most of the time, it'll be pertaining about handling of confidential information specifically, so that people are aware and cannot say that they did not know about how to maintain compliance when dealing with confidential information in the workplace. Okay, are there any questions regarding policy guidelines? Okay, so we've actually covered quite a bit in the session. I know it's quite a lot of information to take in, but please don't stress about that. You will have access to this PowerPoint presentation as well as this recording of this session. What I would like to go through next is to take you through your formative assessment guide. Okay, so your formative assessment guide will help you, will go through understanding the questions and the mark allocations to each question for this unit standard. And thereafter, I'm going to take you through how to upload your complete a formative assessment onto the Moodle platform. Okay. Okay, perfect. So I've just shared my screen now with the formative assessment guide. I'm sure everybody can see it nice and big. Yeah, I hope so. Okay, so again, as mentioned, it's the unit standard 110003, level 4, and has 8 credits, and it's develop administrative procedures in a selected organization. Please ensure that the personal information form here on page 2 is completed in full. Okay, so your learner full name, so that's your full name as per your ID. Okay, your contact address, the code would be your postal code, telephone number, your cell number, learner ID number. Please don't stress about that too much. You can complete the identity number. If you're employed, you can complete your employer details, and you can leave out the assessor name, assessor registration number details here. Okay, that's on page 2. On page 3, again, very important, please complete this declaration. Again, this PDF document is a fillable document, so you can literally just put in your details here and type it in. Yes, Ashmika, you have a question?
In regards to this section of the assessment, it allows me to put my name and my surname, but it doesn't allow me to sign. So the reason why I leave it incomplete is on the day of what is the word?
Submission.
They made us. The day that we went, they made us sign a whole lot of declarations.
Okay.
So I'm not sure if it's fine to leave this because we already signed the declaration at the office, because it gives me a difficulty when it comes to the learner's signature.
Okay. I think Ashmika, let's just maybe reach out to like the support team regarding that, because if I see here,
Okay.
like in my case, it allows me to do it. So I'm not sure why. Maybe it's, and you do this in the beginning, right? You fill in your name, details, and try to sign at the beginning.
Yes.
Okay. Maybe leave the section for last. So after you complete your answers, then go back to this and try and sign.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
Try that. Okay, no problem. Thanks. Yes, so just going back to Ashmika's question, it is important and required for you to sign this page because it's confirming that this submission of this formative assessment is your own work, okay? So another point I want to just raise, please stay clear of any form of plagiarism, okay? So avoid copying verbatim from your learner guide, avoid using ChatGPT, avoid copying from your fellow colleague, avoid all of that. If you are obviously learning through your learner guide, I would rather you reference your learner guide, and when you're providing answers, make sure you're providing it in your own words, okay, in relation to what you studied in your learner guide. Do not go far off, because then it means that you're not showing understanding of the content, okay? That's on page 3. Then on page 4, we are now going into the actual questions. Okay, so very important, look at the lesson plan on the top left corner that will guide you on, where to, learn it from, etc. in your learner guide. So this is lesson plan 1 in your learner guide. So describe the duties of a system administrator. This question is out of 10 marks, okay? So your response or your answer to your question needs to be in relation to the amount of marks that it has, okay? So when you're describing the duties of administrator, please make sure that you follow in these, it's asking you to describe the duties. You need to, in that question, I would rather you look at listing out describing duties of a system administrator. So make sure that your answers are in a concise format so that the person that's assessing or moderating, or when the CETA come in for an external audit, they can see that you're showing an understanding. Okay, there is a guideline on what each word can help you understand the question better. So the keywords here describe, it'll explain to you what sort of action needs to be taken, if that makes sense. So it gives you the description of the word describe. So what I'll suggest is that I'll find out from the team if we can just upload that. I think it's a 1-pager onto the system, onto the Moodle system, and you can use that as a guideline as well. 1.2, outline the other administrative systems. Again,
sorry,
keyword.
Marilyn, sorry.
Yes.
Jesse Marianne had a comment there.
Oh, sorry, I can't see my chat. Just give me one moment. I'll just have a look now. If you submit the paper in your own words, they mark it wrong. I'm speaking from experience. Okay, Marianne. Yeah. So if you feel that that you answered the question correctly, however you feel that that you've been marked incorrectly, you are more than welcome to appeal the process. Okay, appeal that question. So I suggest, or I would recommend that you follow the appeal process on that one.
Marilyn,
Hi.
good afternoon. I did appeal, and then they remark my paper, and then I see it was correct afterwards.
Okay.
Yes.
No problem. Well, I'm glad to hear that.
Okay.
So again, if you feel, that's why there's a process in place, the appeals process. So happy for you to always follow that process in the event that you find that you feel that your question was marked incorrectly or wasn't, you feel that it was right. So always follow the appeals process, okay?
Thank you.
Let's go. No problem. Let's go back to this formative guide. So again, keyword here is outline the other administrative process systems. Okay, out of 10 marks, please answer that accordingly. Lesson plan 2, that would be your guideline there on where to research or to get a understanding of how to answer your questions. What is the procedure that has to be followed when developing administrative systems? Okay, so this is quite a big question here. It's out of 20 marks. Please read the question, get an understanding of it, go back to your learner guide if you're unsure, revise the information, and then come back and attempt it. Lesson plan 3 is your guideline here. How is confidential information treated in your organization? This question is out of 5 marks. Question 3.2, what is considered confidential information within your organization? This is out of 10 marks.
Hello.
Hello.
So if question comes like that, it means I must use my current organization. Meaning what is happening within the organization that I'm working at.
So that you can, yes. So what is considered confidential information within your organization? So here the question is asking you about your organization, okay? However, remember this section here, confidential information was covered in the learner guide. So use the learner guide, right, as your guideline to also adapt your organization and then list your answer accordingly. If that, I hope I'm making sense there. So you know what confidential information is based on what the learner guide has told you, correct? But now you are also relaying it or relating it to your organization. Does that make sense? Okay.
Hi, Marilyn.
Hello.
Hi.
Yes.
Marilyn, Karabo has a question. She
Yes,
asks
go
if
for
it's
it.
fine if we do a flow chart for question 2.1.
Let's just go back to question 2.1.
She wants to do a flow chart.
What is the procedure that has to be followed when developing? Okay, so Karabo, I would suggest if you want to do a flow chart, I'm assuming you're going to print this out and then do that because this is a fillable document. However, I'm not against doing a flow chart. However, please make sure that you are listing or you're explaining what is the procedure that has to be followed. So the flow chart will say one thing where you will put in all the necessary phases, etc. But you're going to have to give detail because look at this question. It's out of 20 marks. So it's asking for detail as well. Okay, so just be aware of that point.
Marilyn, Maria has got her hands up.
Yes, I see that now. Maria, you can go for it.
Good morning. I would love to know if it's like an open book assessment or what.
So with your formative assessment, yes, it is. It is an open book, meaning that you are able to look at your learner guide while you're completing your formative assessment. But again, I'd like to just jump back to the point I mentioned earlier, was please be very aware of plagiarism, because even though it's an open book, it should not be copying directly word for word from the learner guide. Okay, because the learner guide is there to give you, and remember, this is a step to prepare you for your summative assessment, because the summative assessment, you're not going to have your learner guide with you. So this is just a step for you to get into the method of answering questions. Okay, so use your learner guide as a guideline, but do not copy word for word. I'd rather, we rather that you show your own knowledge based on your understanding of the information in your learner guide. Hope that helps.
Thank you.
Thanks, Maria.
Okay, thank you.
Are there any other questions before I just jump through to the, okay, well, that was the last question. Sorry. So question 3.2, that was the last question. Are there any other questions relating to your formative assessment guide? Does anyone need any clarity on anything? Yes, Ashmika.
Marilyn, I just want to also speak about what the lady has spoken about previously. I also found that when I put my assignment into my own words, I was marked incorrectly. But if I did the work, from the module, that's when I got marked correctly. So if I used my own words and summarized, or used the internet or some other source to get the answer, I was marked down. But if I used the module, and that's how I got my work correctly.
Okay, so Ashmika, it's a bit hard for me to understand exactly what happened there. However, that's what I'm saying. Let's just always continue following the appeals process, and I think it's also important you share, what sort of concerns you face in that marking process, because again, that helps us to understand how to, better the process going forward. So we're very open to that. But again, remember, when you are putting it in your own words, it needs to show your understanding of the content. And if it's a situation where that, and again, I can't answer based on the question that was marked incorrect and incorrectly, but just I'm giving you an example. If the if the answer is in no relation to what the question is asking based on the content of the learner guide, then the chances are that you may be marked down on that. Okay.
Okay, thank you.
Thanks, Ashmika. Okay, if there are no other questions relating to the formative assessment guide, I'm going to just quickly go through to the Moodle site and to show you how to upload your formative assessment after you've completed it. So just give me one moment. I just want to check here. Just want to get into the site quickly. Okay, so can everyone see my screen? So this is what your Moodle platform would look like. Okay, so we are on module 3. So today's session is on module 3. If you click on that, you will find that there is, you've got all your lesson plans there, etc. So you're going to look at formative assessment. Okay. So when you click onto formative assessment, it will take you through to your the actual formative assessment guide. So when you click on this part here that allows you to Adobe PDF documents, if you click on that, that's going to download onto your computer or your device. Okay, so ideally this should be done on a computer, because we've had instances in the past where people state that they've been having issues with it downloading on their cell phone. So if you have access to a computer, please try and download it from your computer. And then when you need to upload it, it will allow you to, I just want to try and see here. Okay.
Madeline, I think you are an administrator. That is why.
Yes, I'm not going to be able to. Okay, so unfortunately, I'm not going to be able to actually here make a submission. Okay, mine's is blocked out. Okay, so if you can see here on make a submission, I can't click on that, but your block would be open, your bubble would be opened up to make a submission. Okay, so when you are ready, you've completed your formative assessment guide, you need to then upload it to the system. Okay, very important. You have to upload your completed assessment onto the platform. Okay, so everything gets done on this platform. Unfortunately, you are not able to hand deliver, etc. I think we must just, again, correct me if I'm wrong, it's only on the platform that everything needs to be uploaded, correct?
Correct. If you are having serious trouble, you can contact admin to email it, but we suggest the platform so that we have control and we can monitor it as well.
That's correct, yes. Okay, so that is your formative assessment, and just for all the other modules, it's exactly the same process. Okay, you'll find under the formative assessment section, that's where your guide would be. You can click to download it, and then when you're ready to make a submission, you make a submission there. It's very important to remember just important dates. Your your formative assessment for this module is due on the 15th of January. Okay, so that is your deadline to complete and submit. Please do not delay in submitting. Again, if you are having any technical difficulties, please reach out to the support team to help you with that. Are there any questions regarding the platform? Is
Marilyn,
there?
I see Martha's hands up.
Yes, Martha, go for it. Sorry, I can't see anything here.
Hi, Marilyn.
Hello.
Hi. So I just wanted you guys to help me with deleting my document. I don't know when I uploaded it on the wrong formative assessment. So I noticed that the previous assessment was uploaded here on module 3, under module 3.
Oh, so you're saying that you uploaded the wrong document or wrong assessment to the wrong module. Is that what you're saying?
Yes, that's
Okay.
what I'm saying.
Martha, I think reach out to the support team, and then I'm sure they can help you sort that out. Is it for this module here, for module 3?
No, yeah, for module, I submitted the assessment from module 2 to module 3.
I get what you're saying. Okay, yes. I think
Yeah.
as soon as possible, please reach out, and then on Monday someone will assist you with that.
Sorry, Marilyn. Also,
Yes.
Martha, on the app itself, on the Moodle, you'll see another tab that says remove submission. Try that as well.
Oh, okay. Okay, I will check for it.
Just check there. There is a tab that says remove submission, and you can remove it and apply a new one.
Okay, thank you so much. I'll check for it.
Thank you.
Bye.
Thank you. Before I go to Angelina, I just see we have a question from Matthew. Until what time on the 15th can we upload the formative assessment? Look, I think try and upload it as soon as you possibly can. I don't want to say you have till midnight, because let's just keep it by close of business. So maybe 5 o'clock on the 15th. Again, if you are having any technical difficulties, Dale has just put on the email address on the sidebar here on the meeting chat. Please, can you just make sure that you reach out as soon as possible? Angelina, do you still have a question? Sorry, I was just reading that comment first.
No.
Okay, thank you. Yes, Inko. Sorry, I can't pronounce your name, and I don't want to butcher it. So if you can please.
Philip.
Philip. Oh, there we go. Sorry, Philip. Go for it.
Okay, madam. I lost the connection due to network. My question was, should I make a practical example where it says in your organization, or should I stick to what is on the guidelines?
So in the guide, again, you can state in your organization, for example. So, you can say in my organization, Vital College, this is et cetera. So it's fine that you reference your organization, but very important, stick to the content or your understanding of the content of your learner guide. And I hope I'm making sense in this. So, when we read something, we get an understanding of it. And then when we ask to answer about it, we do that. We answer based on our understanding, but in line with what the learner guide states. Remember, it's this whole process is to show your understanding of the content. Maria, you have a question. What happens if you fail to submit on the due date? Unfortunately, Maria, I think if you do not submit on the due date, then you won't get marked for that. So please try and just stick to the due date. Again, I want to reiterate, if you are having any technical difficulties or challenges trying to upload your formative assessment, or if there's any extenuating circumstances that you are facing, please reach out to that email address, okay? Because rather we keep the communication lines open, because if you don't submit, you will not be marked, okay? Are there any other questions, comments before we close for today?
Marilyn, yes, sorry. I just wanted to know. Karabo asked, is it fine if we do a flowchart for question 2.1? And unfortunately, at that moment, I had to step away from the session. If you can maybe just tell me again what you said.
Sure, no problem. So with question 2.1, if you're able to do a flowchart, that is absolutely fine. However, because the question is out of 20 marks, and it's asking you to, just want to go back there quickly. it's asking what is the procedure that has to be followed when developing administrative processes. So it's actually asking you for content as well. So you need to give an understanding on the procedure that needs to be followed. So it's perfectly fine that you do a flow chart. I mean, it's nice for understanding, but you also need to give detail on that for each step.
Okay, thank you so much.
Okay, no problem. Is everybody comfortable with firstly the PowerPoint presentation? Does everybody have an understanding? I know it was a lot of content and it's quite in-depth. However, as I said, you have resources available to you. We have the PowerPoint, this video presentation, your learner guide. So there's many resources available to you. Mikhail, you've got a question?
Hi, will the PowerPoint as well as the video be uploaded onto the Moodle? Because I think the last time I asked, I personally messaged you and it wasn't uploaded, or I couldn't find it.
Oh, I'm sorry about that, but I believe so, yes. I think if I can see on my profile, I do see the PowerPoint presentation as well as the video recording. So maybe you were just having a bit of technical difficulties. So maybe just reach out to the support team there to help you with that, or to guide you. Yeah.
All right, thanks.
Okay, no worries. And then can I confidently say everybody's comfortable with uploading their formative assessment guide once completed? Does everybody have an understanding, especially for our new people that have joined today? Are you able to upload your formative assessment guide confidently today, or not today, on the 15th? And if you are unsure of anything, please, please, please reach out to the team for support. Okay. If there are no further questions, I'm going to call this session to a close. I'd like to thank each and every one of you for making time today to join the session. I trust that it was informative for you and helped you. Do I need to email technical support if I'm unable to rewatch the video? Yes, Teresa, I suggest that you do email for the video recordings if you are unable to access it. Please just be advised that the email recording will only be made available, I think, probably on Monday, if I'm not mistaken. Yes, so it won't be uploaded today. I don't believe it will. So it'll probably be on Monday. So just be patient. It will be uploaded. If you feel that you can't, or if you find that you can't access the video recording or the PowerPoint presentation, please again just reach out to the training at vitalonline.co.za email address. Okay. Thank you, everybody. I hope you have a beautiful weekend. Take care and be safe. Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you, you
Bye-bye.
too.
Bye, bye, bye.
Bye.
Bye, Marilyn.
Thank you. Thank you.